All right. All right, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Continue to come on into this edition of Maryland's Cafe Society radio show. It's the second edition for 2024. Of course, we started this new season 6 last week, celebrating women for Women's History Month. And of course, we are attempting to give voice to women this month, uh, remembering and honoring the women who didn't have rights back in the day, and of course, didn't have a voice either. And so, how wonderful, celebrating how wonderful it is that we have it now. We have it now. And of course, joining me today, she's back, everybody. Are you there?
Yes, who are you calling?
I'm calling you, lady. Teresa Collins, of course, she's the author, the speaker, and friend of the
Yeah.
show. And Teresa's joining us for this part two of
Yes,
celebrating women. And she
yeah.
brought some friends, as you can see. Let's clap it up for everybody else who is on the show with us today. And of course, our special guest is Randi Coley, who's a life coach and counselor and
Yes,
author. Hey,
yes.
Randi. Hi, how are you? Put your microphone on.
I'm sorry. I thought it was
There you are.
unmuted.
There you
Hi,
are.
everybody.
All right. So we'll be your main speakers, but of course we're going to ask everybody else who's on the on the call on the show this evening to participate as well. How's it going, ladies? How was your day?
Busy. Busy. I'm training for a new position, so it's busy for me.
Oh boy. All right. Yeah, ladies, a woman's work is never done.
Yeah,
Right?
mine's busy too. I'm working on another book, but it's not mine. It's for someone else.
Mm,
I'm on a deadline trying to make it happen.
I
All
understand.
right.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's in the evening and it's the weekend, baby. So I know everybody's kind of, the battery is kind of low, but we're gonna try to get some energy in here and get everybody.
Yeah,
All right, all right.
There we
yeah.
go, David. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Collins.
Well, hello, Miss Randi Coley.
Hi.
Yes.
So listen, I put this out. I'm gonna put this icebreaker out there. I like to do this for fun, and I hope no one cheated.
Okay.
Remember last week we talked about how we've only been celebrating women here in this country for 43 years, and it started as Women's History Week, and by 1987 it became Women's History Month, and so
Yeah.
quite honestly, Women's History Month it's just been for 37 years, and
Mm-hmm.
so I wanted to go back
Close
to
door, people.
1987 and just remind those of us who were around then about the cost of gas, which was 89 cents a gallon. I don't know if you remember that.
I was driving
And
about that time. I thought it was 85 cents, but okay.
yeah, it fluctuated depending on what part of the country you were in or even what day it was of the week, just like now. One day it's 3.49, the next day is 3.89. But
Mhm.
averaging around 89 cents a gallon. And
Yeah.
according to the research, it's saying that the average home was about $92,000.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'm choking as I say it, but $92,000 for the cost of a new home back then. So the question is, the icebreaker to everybody is, how much did a dozen eggs cost, do you think?
I'm gonna,
$1.05.
Okay, anybody else?
I'm gonna say 62 cents.
Okay. Any other guesses? We got $1.05. We got 62 cents.
99 cents.
I say 75.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All
80
right.
89 cent a jewel.
Well, again, it depends on where you were shopping, right?
Yep.
Because all the stores had different prices. And because I didn't even get the answer myself, let me ask Google real quick how much eggs cost in 1987. A dozen eggs. Let's see, 1987. Yeah, it says the average price was 78 cents.
Okay.
Eggs.
Wasn't too far off 62.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So if we account for today's pricing, that's it would have been back then $2.50.
Mm.
$2.50
Makes
for a
you want to get
dozen
your
eggs.
own chicken coop, don't
That's what I'm saying.
it?
So yeah, I just wanted to kind of take us back to 1987 because that's kind of where we're going to be in the show today. Because I did a little research and discovered that I posed the question, what was at the forefront of women's minds back in 1987, and the common thread came up the same as it is today: family,
Yeah.
careers, relationships. And so not much has changed in terms of what we were thinking about or what was important to us, but the viewpoint or the world in general has changed since then. And so before we get into the actual talk, I just want to remind everybody that, of course, this show is all in the spirit of celebrating women,
Yeah.
uplifting women, being positive. Um, it's not the place for judgment or condemnation or any of that. And so let's go ahead and get started. So again, the main topic, what's on the mind of women in 2024? And Teresa and I talked about this last week, what I just said in terms of what was on the mind for women in 1987. And
Yeah.
so this is part two again of a four-part series for this month, March, Women's History Month. And we're going to focus tonight on knowing and growing yourself. Before we go there, let's just kind of again highlight what women were thinking about in 1987 when they first instituted Women's History Month. And again, it was family, health, um, equality and pay for career and businesses. And
And
of
that's still
course,
the question today.
isn't
Women
that,
do not receive equal pay.
isn't that something? And so when it comes to family, though, and careers or business, I think the mindset of women is different now in 2024. Back then, just kind of remembering my own experience, we were finally settling with the idea of not having to choose. Because remember, in the 60s and 70s, women kind of had to choose, do I want to be a stay-at-home mom or do I want to work outside of the home? And by the time the 80s hit, it was no longer a choice. I remember being even in high school, we were always sort of prepped to think about what we wanted to do in life in terms of work and career. And so we went through all these different trainings in high school, right?
Mm.
Um, that would either take us to college or take us to trade school or whatever. But the point is, we no longer had to choose. We were in that mindset that we could do both. We could bring home the bacon, fry it up
Yeah.
in a pan,
Right. And
and take care of the children, the husband, the man, all of that. So fast forward to now, I think it's a issue that we're still struggling with. I think the younger women, especially, are still trying to find that balance, right? How can I continue to do both? How can I find that balance? And then there's some women who have decided that they're going to kind of go back and do it the old way and stay home and take care of their children. And there's no right or wrong, right? There's no right or wrong.
Correct.
Right.
But finding that balance is, I think, the big focus here for 2024 with women in their careers. And as Randi just attested to, finding or securing the equality and the pay and the time that in which they are outside of the home. Anybody want to jump in and just kind of chime in on that before we get into knowing self?
Well, I'm a little older, so my children are adults. So, I mean, I have my grandchildren here with my daughter and my niece, and still sometimes I come in and they're like, "What's for dinner?" I'm like, "Well, I'm cooking." So, or I'm currently writing another book, trying to get this one that's already self-published, but the cover won't go through, so I'm fighting with that right now. So there's a balance. I'm still working my 9 to 5. I still counsel people in the evening, so it's a full plate. And there is no balance when you talk about that. You have to take that moment and say, hey, that 20-minute shower has got to work for me today. I've got to play some music while I'm in there. I've got to pray. I've got to do something that's for me in that moment, so that I don't start to feel overwhelmed or I don't feel lost in the shuffle of taking care of everybody else but not myself.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds to me like you're saying that women have just kind of accepted the fact that there is no balance, and we just have to, no matter where you are, in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, and above, we just still have to find that balance. I mean, not find the balance, but accept that there is no balance and just make it work.
I think, no, what I'm saying is that whatever's going to help you, use that. So when I use the example of the 20-minute shower, when I had my grandchildren and they were babies, the most time I could get in the shower was 7 minutes. So I knew I had to make it happen in 7 minutes, wash everything quick and get out, because they're going to scream and cry. So, now I can do, a half an hour shower. I can luxuriate. I can take a soaking bath because they're bigger. But, whatever's going to give you a 5-minute peace of mind, because if you're carrying the weight of everything, you have to have something that is going to ground you. Whatever that is, whether it's prayer, if it's a shower. I wash the day off when I come home. I'm getting in the shower because them people get on my nerve. And I literally get in the shower like, okay, work is work. I'm home. So I whatever that is, you got to find something that's going to level you out, whatever that is.
Yeah. Teresa, any thoughts?
Okay. I had a question. Oh,
Oh.
go ahead.
I was just going to say that I tend to agree with what Randi said, as far as just finding that balance, whatever that does work. God is blessed. I do have a spouse in the house, as well as a precious mother-in-law who do help me out with 2 little babies whom you probably can hear in the background, a 2 and a 2-year-old, and then also a teenager all at the same time. And so it is important to find that balance, and that balance sometimes just comes when you're using the bathroom. You spend a little extra time, to yourself while they're knocking on the door outside of the bathroom, but you take that moment and just utilizing that moment to decompress helps you to keep on going through the rest of the day. So it still is a question of, well, where do you find that balance? But I think that it's important to note that you have to make that balance. Okay, Bubby, I'll come. You have to find the time to actually take the time to make that balance.
As we hear the baby kicking the door in.
Yeah,
Right?
my dress for me to come to wherever he wants to go. But that's all. You take time.
Yeah, I hear you. I think the difference between now 2024 and 1987 is the pressure is off. I mean, we have enough women in leadership positions and in position to understand where a lot of women are coming from, whether they're in their 20s, their 30s, or, because some of these young people in their 20s, they're juggling education and work, juggling education, work, and having children. And of course, in the 30s and 40s, they have their families established and everything. So I think the difference between 87 and 2004 is it's just acceptable. It's almost like the norm that you're going to have women in the workplace juggling a lot of things. Teresa, did you want to chime in?
No, I'm enjoying the conversation, and so I don't want to dominate. We have enough people on,
Yeah.
and
I did have a question.
Go ahead, David.
Just wondering, I was born in 1989, so I don't have the full scope of, the difference in generations, but I wonder how women today compare to women 1987 and before in this sense. In my experience, I've grown up around women who've gone to college, who own homes. I mean, when I married my wife, she had her own house, her own degree, her own money. So there was never an expectation that you do everything because I'm paying for everything. And the women that I know are pretty tough women. And it's like, would you think that women today have an expectation of some level of equality, or is it still that mindset? I gotta take care of everything at home and my man and cook and do everything and still go to work. Because I just haven't met that woman personally. I've met women who have standards. I
Well,
don't know.
that's the difference in the generation that, back in the 80s, that was the push because remember before the 50s and 60s, the woman's role was to be in the home, taking care, raising the children and taking care of the husband. And as, time went on and society developed, more and more women found themselves having to go outside of the home to work and or just wanting to go outside of the home to work. And for the 1960s and 70s, it was always like a big debate, where should the woman be? By the 80s, we had kind of settled it out and said, okay, she can do both if she wants. Randy, were you going to jump in?
Yes. Ding, ding, ding. I grew up with a single mom, so I don't know, that I didn't have a mom who didn't work. And then my grandparents were married when my mom's dad died. They were married for 50 years. When my dad's dad died, they had been married for like 63 years. And they were, my grandmother worked when they chose to work. Or like they worked together, they were sharecroppers and farmers at one point or something. But when by the time I met them, they were stay-at-home women. And I think that for me, that was never an option. Like I mean, Lord don't humble me, but the only way I'm staying home is if I can't work anymore. But there's a double standard as well. It doesn't matter that there are two people in the household. It doesn't matter if there's one child or 15 in the household. The standard falls on the woman. When people walk in the house, they don't ask him, did he do the dishes? Why does sink full of dishes? They ask the woman, excuse me, why does house look like this? Yeah. Even though it might be a man in the house. And just like in 87, we're in a recession. And financially, there has to be a two-income household because childcare costs a mortgage, and without that second income, you can't make it. It's very difficult. You have to live. I mean, you're living on a strict budget, and so I think that in some ways we've progressed, but in other ways we're still stuck because how do I, I'm past childbearing age, but how would I say, oh, I'm gonna go out here and get a job and then drop my child off at daycare every day and you paying a mortgage for their daycare? And when, if you weren't working, you could see that money could be allocated for other things. Or and it's not a judgment. I have to look at it realistically and look at it in the sense that it takes two incomes. When that check for that mortgage is written, it didn't just come out of her pocket or his pocket. They had to work for that. Though these light bills, they almost a mortgage. They $200, $300, $400, $500 light bills. So car payments. I was with somebody who just bought a car, and their car payment was $750 a month. And they get good credit. And I thought, your credit score 800 and your car payment is $750 a month for 4 years. I was like, oh my God. So when you look at the way the economy is, just like in the 80s, we are in a recession. Right. And financially, we are paying more for the things that we have to have every day to live. So it takes two incomes.
Yeah. And thank you for bringing up how different it was for our parents, grandparents, and great grandparents. For some of us, for most of us, my mom grew up, as I shared last week. My mom and my dad were raised in the South, and so the living was quite different. Like you said, they lived off the land, and so both parents were out there, working the land and doing what they had to do to sustain themselves and the family. But as we progressed as a nation, it became more industrialized. The roles started to become more kind of separate, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Not, for everyone. I'm just talking like in broader general terms, what the role of the woman was by the time we hit the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, compared to obviously before that time and certainly now. And just to kind of give David some perspective, because he's a millennial, right? So
Yep, millennial.
He was raised with a working, just like my kid, even me. My mom worked. She did years where she stayed with us, and she did years where she went outside the home and worked, or became self-employed. But again, by that time we were well in the 70s and 80s and 90s. So again, it was more expected and acceptable. Teresa?
Yeah, I remember, and I think David asked this question because he was trying to start trouble.
What?
It's a loaded question, but very good topic and in line with what we're doing. But the point that I wanted to make, I was thinking about what Randi was saying about the child care. It's a whole mortgage. I remember when I was paying child care, I was paying, I think, $45 a week. And when I look at these people now, they're paying $400 and $500 a week for child care. And I'm like, why would you do that? So yes, the cost of living has inflated, but our paychecks, even with college degrees, and I mean the highest level, masters and BAs and doctorate degrees, you still need two incomes in the home because it just didn't keep up. They didn't level out. And that makes it very difficult. And that's why we end up with a lot of the stress, the depressions and things like that, because, life is hard. It's just hard to do life these days. So
life be life.
And women who are holding it down like that on these shoestring salaries and budgets that we have, we might as well look in the mirror and say, you go, girl, you pat yourself on the back, because women, we earned that right, because life is just hard, even with two incomes. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that fact about the daycare, because sometimes your daycare really is the same as your rent or more. And I just think that is so unfair in these days.
So, um, so David, does that answer your question, young man?
Um, not exactly. I guess I was asking, let me rephrase, and I'm not trying to restart anything. I got a perspective. I guess I'm asking, do you think modern women still have the same mindset that I've got to do everything in spite of my man? Or do you think that they're a little more understanding of that this is a contract?
I'll chime in on that as well.
That's more my question.
I got it for you.
That's kind of the way that's what I've experienced in my short life.
Right. Women these days, they are just not going. Women's Month is about equality. And I had a conversation with a young lady about 2 weeks ago, and she's around you all's age, 34, 35. And she was feeling some type of way because she was saying, I work the same as my husband. And we get a home around the same time, but I'm the one that has to come home and, still work. He gets to chill, but I have to still work. Somebody's got to put the food on the table, get the children bathed, ready for tomorrow, get the kitchen cleaned back up, make sure things are in order. And she was saying, why we can't split this 50-50. So women may feel that way, but life just doesn't work like that. That's why I say
that's that double standard.
Yeah, I had some the women, because women, we some bad creatures. We do it all, and it can be a little tough. But when you have your family and a good husband, a good mate, it's still worth it, because a lot of times we don't like how the man do stuff anyway. He ain't gonna clean the kitchen like I want it cleaned. He ain't gonna put the dishes up the right way. And the child, you done gave the children a bath, but you forgot to put soap in the water. It's all kind of stuff. So we like doing what we like to do anyway. So it's still, yeah, but we really women are thinking a little different, but for the most parts, in the things that I know, traditions have not changed that much. And you do see sometimes you have a stay-at-home father, or some people. I know I'm gonna just use David and Jocelyn's. I don't believe Jocelyn has cooked maybe 10 times in their 4 or 5 years of being married. I know Jocelyn and we'll sit up in the kitchen and wait, David, when the food gonna be done. We there, taking his time and getting together and feeding his family. That's his thing. They have their own little way on how they do stuff, and it looks like for them it works. So yeah, David, that dynamic, I think women are more progressive in that mindset than men. But I see in some households it's it's a give and take. It's what works for you.
Yeah.
I mean, and there are really a lot of young people that are around now that women are going. They're like, no, I'm not doing that. I hear a lot of women now say they're not having children. They don't want to be married, because if they feel like, if I gotta have it, the old way, I don't want it the old way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's true.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, honestly, just from my observations and short conversations I may have had with millennials and those who came after them, I think the younger women are really just kind of taking that mindset of the Gen Xers and some of the boomer women's. They're just gonna go out there, learn a skill, get a job, and make things happen. And if they find a man that they can do life with and agree on how they want, their relationship and their family home life to be, then that's what they're going to be. But I think they are just kind of doing it for themselves now. When when I was younger, and my teens and 20s, it was still a time frame where a lot of women just wanted to finish, not a lot, but some women wanted to finish high school and get married. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's
No, it's
nothing wrong with that right now today.
yeah.
If you just want to get done with your high school education or even your college education and get married and be that wife and mother, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I think for the most part, women are trying to look out for themselves financially, and they want to have hopefully get a partner who they can do life with and share life with. And you know, you hate to look at things in a negative sense, but if something should happen and they split, she'll still be able to take care of herself. And if any children come out of the union, she'll still be able to care for her children.
Now, I also know that when you have children and the way God structured family, he specifically gave the woman encouragement to take pride in being the keeper of the home. We look at that as a drudgery, but God gave it to us as a gift. And we are really supposed to take ownership of that almost like it's a business, because it is. You can't just run no home, looking at TV all day. I used to have to get up early to get them meals done, make sure the laundry was taken care of. I kept a immaculate house for a good long time. Don't ask me about it now, it ain't your business. But back then when I was young, I had a immaculate house and everything. Randi just sent a note saying that her computer froze and she's working on getting it back up and running. And
We lost someone there. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So, but the point that I'm making now, it was an honor for us to be in our home and be homemakers, building. The scripture said a wise woman, wisdom. It takes wisdom and knowledge and understanding to build a home. And if the society and the world was more fair, that's why women had to fight for rights. And if the world was more fair and society in America wasn't so capitalistic, and I'm not going on a negative tip, but things can run properly. If a woman wanted to stay at home and her husband was out there working, the family wouldn't suffer. You could still take family vacations if they would pay people a fair wage. Amazon and all of them, they make trillions of dollars, and you want to give people $1 or $2 above minimum wage. What kind of stuff is that? Cut it out, pay people. And this is what I'm saying. So to be a homemaker, a stay-at-home mom, or whatever the case may be, this fight of, the battle of the sexes, a lot of that stuff wouldn't even be if people would do things the way God said it. But the world is just, the scripture says the world lieth in wickedness. So it's just really kind of difficult. And that's why you see a lot of animosity or hardness of people don't want to stay in their lanes, if I could put it that way. People don't want to be a homemaker if the husband ain't going to help. You're supposed to help. That's your home. Women, men too, don't want to have to take care of a woman. They had this guy, Kevin Samuels, asking the women, well, what you bring to the table? I'm a high valued man. So people, all of this crazy stuff is coming up. But if we do things the way God said, do it, what a beautiful world this would be. It would be a wonderful place to be, family and love. And women know these things. And that's why, like you said, every time you asked the question way back in 87, it was family and relationships. Let's go back to the old way. Let's go back to the things that matter. Family matters.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes, and thank you for taking us there, Teresa, because now I want to get to where our focused discussion
Yes.
is going to be this segment. And Randi came back just in time because it's knowing yourself. So if family and relationships is at the forefront of women's minds for centuries, in 1987 and even now, how do we improve those relationships, and how do we get that well-being in our families, outside of our children, outside of our families and friends, and even outside of our careers or work? Who are we? Who are you?
Come
Um,
on.
what's your personality? What do you like to do? And I think if we can answer those questions and then live that out, then we can improve our relationships and our family well-being will be better. Randy, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that women have a very strong issue with is people pleasing. You know, when we're growing up, oh, you be a good girl. When you're a teenager, oh, you do what I tell you, you know, do what's right. When you're in your 20s, if you're married, you know, you want to please your husband. You know, you're in your 30s, it's about the children. You know, 40s and 50s, what we doing? We took it out for our parents again. So, but in there comes the time when we have to say, okay, who am I aside from being her mother, his sister, his wife, her friend? Who am I? Who is that? Who is, when I look in the mirror, who do I see? And what is the thing in your life that you're looking for that is fulfilling? And what is the thing that holds you stationary while you're fulfilling that dream? For me, I mean, my life is my life in God is always going to be paramount to where I go to the next part of my life, because He gives me direction. Yeah, don't do that. Go that way. Or don't do that. Fall back off of that. You know. So there are things that we have to find for ourselves. And I was telling somebody the other day, I literally did not get my own voice and my own solid, this is who I am, deal with it, till about 2 years ago during COVID.
Okay.
I started to find out who I was, whether it was emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence, you know, psychological, emotional issues, whatever it was. I did not find out who I was and what I was made of until about 2 years ago.
Wow.
And I mean, I'm 54, so 50 plus, you finding out who you are, what you're doing, where you're going, and are you doing this for you? Who are you doing it for?
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that a lot of us make the mistake of doing. We living for everybody else, but are we living for ourselves? And when I say living for ourselves, I'm not talking about in selfishness, because each one of us is supposed to touch something. We're supposed to leave an imprint when we leave here.
Yes.
And if we're not leaving an imprint, then no one will ever know we're here. You know, someone said something recently, like 100 years from now, somebody else will be living in your house. Your cars will be in landfills. Your clothes will be out of fashion. You'll be in a boneyard, and so will everybody you know. So what imprint and what people are you impacting today while you're here? What are you leaving them with? What is your legacy? What is the thing that you intend when this is over? What do you want people to say she did? Did she touch something? I know you've seen the movie Hidden Figures.
Yes.
Yeah.
Katherine Johnson, everybody's talking about Katherine Johnson, but 40 years ago in 1968, 67, 68, when she was figuring out those numbers and she was matching launch codes and windows for that astronaut to come in and land, nobody knew who she was.
Come on.
Nobody knew who she was. It took a movie in 2000 and what, 11, 10, 12 to come out for anybody to know who this woman was. Yeah. But this woman was the reason those men were able to fly into outer space.
So living out her purpose.
Yes.
Not doing it with the thought that, 50 years from now, they're going to do a movie about me. She was simply living out her purpose.
Yes.
You know, what are you purposed for? What were you brought here for? What are you here to do that when you leave here is going to make a difference?
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes we look at people and say, oh, she's awesome. She's this. What was her purpose? Not the amount of money she made, not the house she built, not the clothes she wore, not how many Instagram followers she had, not how many times you saw her on TV, but what was her purpose? Did she leave people feeling better, or did she leave them feeling worse?
Mhm.
Did she add to them, or did she take away?
Come on. What was her impact? Come on.
What was the impact? When it's all said and done, when I leave here, I want to have left an impact
Yeah.
that is good.
Come on here.
Not the, oh, okay. Oh, you know, did you know her, girl? I knew her. No, I want you to be able to say, I was better when she was gone, when she was here, you know, for having known her, you know. And it's not about making millions of dollars. It's not about Instagram followers, because when all that's said and done, this could crash tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, you could, you know, your gift, your talent, what your mission or purpose is can be a vast variety of things, even simply being the best homemaker, wife, and mother.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't have to be anything big and large scale. But I think that you have to do the work to know who you are and what it is that you want. You know, like I said earlier, if all you want, and I'm not making it sound like it's nothing, but if what you want is to get married, have children, be that wife and mother, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. You
Right.
that. And that's probably, you know, what your gifting is to be that. Some women, you know, they know they have when I was in school, they had
Home
these
ec.
career tests and personality tests that helped you kind of focus in on who you are and what it is that you may be good at and what your gifts or talents may be.
But they give them to you in college.
We even did it at the high school level. So
Yeah.
if some young people are listening, I think even in church there's a spiritual gifting class. How you find your spiritual gifting, which it can all kind of intertwine and connect. But you got to know who you are, and then pursue those things that bring you joy, bring you peace, bring you happiness, which will make you be your best self for your friends, your family, your
Right.
children, your husband. Ultimately, hopefully, have an impact, whether it's, you know, with your family and community or the world at large. But I agree, they have to know who they are.
Teresa.
Yeah, just one thing. I want to really thank you for saying, if what you want, your purpose in life, if all you really want to do is once you graduate is to get married and have a family. The world today, the social climate that we're in today, they make that look like a dirty thing. You know, you don't have aspirations. You need to raise your level of consciousness, and you know, you got to just people, God ordained the family.
Mm,
Why do you think at the end of the day, that's the thing that's on most of our minds?
yeah.
Even when you have a spouse and you all had a beautiful life together, but you all got old and one of you expired, the person that's been left behind, they still miss that person because family was. But in today's society, it's set up where a woman has to feel like she doesn't have a real dream or ambitions if she wants to be married. But God ordained that. He said in his word that it's not good that a man should be alone. You know, and if you're alone, you're going to play the field. So now you're not just, you're a hoe now. You're here running,
Oh,
doing all, I probably shouldn't have said it.
Well, you don't have to be, but I
No,
mean,
no.
in reality, we know that we know the scripture says it's not good for man to be alone. But
Yeah.
at the same time, you have to have that compatibility with that person. You have to, there has to be that person that you found.
Yeah.
And people not taking time to find people.
Come on.
The scripture says, he that findeth a wife find a good thing and find favor. People not taking time to find. They hooking up. They
Yeah, so
meeting up. What they tell me, what they call it, a coffee date now.
Mm.
If they meet up with if they meet up at a coffee house, he or she has the opportunity to see you and decide if they want to meet you. And then if they don't, they
Oh, is
walk
that
away.
the speed
Yeah,
dating? Is
I
that
No, it's
heard
speed
of
not
that. That's
speed
dating?
not
dating. This
speed
is
dating.
Oh,
That's
that's
not
not
a
speed
speed
dating.
date
This is
or a coffee date. I've
yeah,
heard of that though.
it's actually the way people decide if they want to if they want to quote unquote waste time or not. They will say, okay, well, hey, why don't we meet here? And one
Take
person
one
will
look
get
at the
there,
person and judge right then and
yep,
there.
and they're gonna judge right then and there, and they're gonna go on about their business.
What is that?
Or that it's called, that's what they call it, coffee date.
Mm.
It's really a disclaimer. Like, I don't know if I want to invest any time on you. Let's make this quick.
okay.
And and I'm gonna use myself. I can go sit in a coffee house and I'll be sitting there reading or whatever, waiting, and this person never comes because they got something else they want to do. They someone else they want to do, and I'm not the person they looking at or looking for. So they'll show up, check me out, but I don't know who they are, where they are, and then they go on about their business. It's a thing that they do now. When I heard that, I said, "Wow!" They call it a coffee date. They have this thing that they do. Somebody was telling me about this one because I was like, "That's wow." They got an app where you can meet up with folks. No pressure, no pressure, no game. Meet up, get it on, and y'all go y'all separate way.
That's Tinder.
No, not Tinder is known for that, but that's not what it is. That's not what it was meant for. Tinder, eHarmony, all these places were actually meant up for people to meet and get together. But there is a thing on Tinder where they say, they got a hookup, underlying hookup going on there. I mean, it's crazy when you hear, and people are so quick to get in the bed with folks. They're not getting intimate with them. They're not connecting. They're not getting to know. If you ask the person 5 questions about the person they just slept with, they can't tell you. What's their mama last name? They don't know.
Right.
What was the street they grew up on? I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's a free for all. Everybody wants everything. They got all these names for all these different activities. Everybody want everything. And hey, I ain't mad at you if you want to try it, but I'm just really like, how do you develop a closeness to somebody if you sampling everything on the platform?
Yeah, someone has to teach them that that's not the way. And like you were saying earlier, Randy, just having a prayer life and connecting with the higher power, with God, and asking Him to lead you and guide you and order your steps and give you those unctions and nudges that you need in life to make those right decisions. If marriage is your goal, if that's what you feel like your purpose is to be married and have a family. And of course, we know that we live in a society where for generations, a lot of times the woman doesn't end up with the husband or the spouse, but she still has her family, and God can still bless that family and give her all the tools and resources that she needs to raise her family.
Yes,
Amen.
I mean, like, my mom's a divorced woman. My daughter's a divorced woman. They got married and had children, but they are, they raised them by themselves. So yes, it's always possible that you can get in a marital situation and still end up alone. That's always a possibility.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that.
Again, it just goes back to that spiritual development, knowing your purpose, your God-given purpose in life. I wholeheartedly believe in the personality tests that are out here, so that you can really identify on a higher level of thinking of who you are as a person. You know, what what are your inclinations? Um, what's your personality type? What are the things that you feel like you are supposed to be doing in life? I know, and I know we got on this because we were talking about, women wanting to trying to identify or knowing themselves in terms of what they're supposed to be, and we kind of focused in on the marriage and the man woman relationship thing. But I don't want to get stuck here. I mean, because that we could really just do a whole show on that. But I do want to hear what Teresa has to say, and then let's start trying to kind of wrap up because we went longer than anticipated. Teresa, what's up? Your mic is on.
I said the conversation was off the chain, so that's why
Yeah.
we spilled dope. So I'm gonna try to make mine real quick. But the bottom line is, with all of the women and men saying that what they want to do, I always wanted to be this person, I always wanted to be that person. And see, and that's why I again appreciate you always bringing us back to the spiritual foundation.
All right.
Amen. Amen.
All right. All right. David, your final thoughts here?
My final thoughts. I just wanted to give something. Since it is Women's History Month, I just wanted to take some time to praise women for a moment and my thoughts on our female counterparts. I think about the scripture that findeth wife findeth a good thing and obtaineth favor in the Lord. It's not good that man should be alone. Everything on earth is enhanced by a woman, and no organization is successful without women. I work in an education system. We generally have male leaders, like administrators, but none of those male administrators can do anything without their female counterparts. Usually the administrative assistant that runs the school keeps everybody together. An entire school district is usually a woman keeping it all together. I think I'm serious. I think about countries. The countries that put their thumb on women the most are honestly the most backwards. They're always at war. If you take the time to study the countries that don't give women the proper rights, they are always at war. Their people are dirt poor. When you don't treat women right, you destroy an entire organization. And then I think about the most successful in business organizations. Those are the ones where women are free to thrive. I'm going to give just two examples I can think of off the top of my head before I shut up. Bill Gates once said in Microsoft, one of the most successful companies in the world, he said, we hire women and we always have hired women because why would we cut ourselves off from half of the world's talent? He understood. I thought that was a powerful quotation, but he's rich and powerful for a reason. And one of those reasons is he makes sure he gets all the talent he can. And half of that talent comes from our women. Another organization that puts women up. Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg was a very young man when Facebook took off. He didn't know what he was doing as far as business. So he hired a chief operations officer, and that was a woman. And she turned Facebook into the multi-billion-dollar corporation it is today. Not Mark Zuckerberg. He hired the right person who was a woman, and it enhanced him. It enhanced the entire world. So I just wanted to say, everywhere you go, when women are treated right, given just their fair treatment, you're going to see greatness. And now I'm going to end by saying, I thank God for my wife who truly enhanced my life. I thought I was pretty happy before her, but when she came into my life, she truly enhanced me and everything around me. And I'm a nicer person because of it. So let's give women their due because they're necessary in this world. I put down the piece.
I'm glad you said that, David. I'm really glad you said that, right? Because yes, when women are treated well, they are very powerful. However, even when women are not treated well, they are still very powerful creatures, right? And I wanted to attest to this also. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday. We were talking about the civil rights movement, and we started talking about Rosa Parks, and it was a power move. It was a real power move. When women set their mind to something. It's nothing you can do to stop them. They're gonna get it done. And that situation really, and it's the same thing with my mother. It's the same thing with one of my favorite aunties. Okay. It's the same thing with a few female friends that I have. When they really got their mind to something, there's nothing anybody can do to stop them. They're going to get their point across. And I really appreciate that about y'all. Thank y'all for being that mentally strong.
Thank you, Trent. All right, everybody. Well, I think we kind of, touched on a lot in this discussion in terms of knowing self and how women can try to find that balance to have a better family life, um, to improve their relationships and hopefully answer Jocelyn's question, and I guess the question of many women who still may grapple with balance. How do I do the balance? I want both. I want to be that mother, that wife, and I also want to work outside of the home. Hopefully, some of the nuggets that were thrown out there this evening will help you in that pursuit. And even if you are just kind of thinking about it, that's a lot. There's a lot to be said about that too, because you have that level of consciousness that provokes you to even think about it. So I guess on that note, ladies, I do want to thank Randi Coley, and of course, Teresa Collins, and then all of the guests, Jocelyn, David, Trent. Thank you so much. Whitney, I see you. Thank you for jumping in on the call. And Claudia, appreciate you all for being here today on Maryland's Cafe Society as we celebrate women, of course, giving women the voice that honoring the voice that we have now, keeping in mind the women who came before us centuries ago didn't have this platform, didn't weren't even allowed to voice their thoughts and their opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this was part 2 of this series. So before we go, I do want to remind everybody of our word that we're focusing on this month, and it is an old school word, like I think a 18th century word, paladin, paladin, and it means an advocate, a defender, or a hero of a noble cause. And as Trent just shared, um, when I think of paladin, I see a picture of women. All
Yeah.
right, so let's try to use that word this month in our everyday conversation. And
Okay.
remember that you can always visit Maryland'sCafeSociety.com to connect with me on social media. Haven't been that active, but trying to get back. And of course, the blog, and right here on the YouTube channel. This is Zoom right now, but we will get this posted to YouTube. Maryland's Cafe Society on YouTube. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. I do have that email club as well, Mondays with Marilyn. So if you want to subscribe to that, just send me an email to Maryland's Cafe Society at yahoo.com and say, sign me up, and we'll get you on that Monday emailing list. And
Mm.
it's real short email, just some inspirational quotes, sometimes something funny, thought for the day, just to stay connected with everybody. All right. All
All
right.
right.
So thanks again, everybody, for being here. Oh, and what love is? Love is what? Women, and especially God's women.
Yeah.
Especially
And
God's
I just say one thing, one shout out to Whitney and Claudia.
women.
I contacted them at the last minute, and faithful they are. They showed up, and these are two very powerful women that really, when they speak and express themselves, it's like E.F. Hutton. You truly have to listen because something to say. So hopefully, next show, they'll be able to speak and share their opinions and voices. It's good to see both of you ladies.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much again for jumping on
Yeah.
the show. All right, everybody. So I got to wrap up as I always do with our little slug line, and that is if you don't do anything else this week, be sure that you live, you laugh, and you love. And as always, it's a pleasure and a privilege to hang out. We'll see you on, if not part 3, definitely part 4 of
Yeah.
this series for
Mm.
Women's History Month. Peace, everybody. Have a great one.